the need to create an emergency compensation fund for the mussel fishermen of West Cork and Kerry unable to harvest this winter. You have 4 minutes, Deputy Harrington.
Thanks very much, Cathaoirleach. Look, and I want to bring to the Minister's attention. I thank the Minister, Phelan, for her attendance here this afternoon. Just to bring to her attention an issue that has developed chiefly in the southwest of this country with respect to the mussel growing industry. The rope mussel industry it's a volatile industry. It's one where largely family-run small businesses invest heavily in gear and other issues to effectively grow what is a very, very safe, organic and healthy food product. It's volatile in many ways. It comes under a huge threat, and it's at the mercy, obviously, of markets. It's at the mercy of weather conditions, and now, most recently, it's at the mercy of high toxicity levels in the water. And the toxicity levels come from, it's a very, very natural toxicity. It's the red tides or an algal bloom. The mussel feeds on that in the warmer months, but generally they die off. The water becomes less toxic or zero toxicity, and the mussels are very safe to harvest, very safe to process, and very, very safe to consume. Unfortunately, the red tide dioxin levels have remained stubbornly high and continue to remain high, although they have abated in recent week and days. But it has left the mussel growers and producers with a significant problem, and it comes at the end, and if the Minister might pardon the pun, the end of a perfect storm, where last year, as we're aware, and we remember the storms over the winter, caused havoc around the country, and you can imagine where you have an offshore industry of rope mussels waiting to be harvested. Well, essentially many of them, in terms of their mussel flesh, mussel meat, was wiped out. They start again, and they are just about to reap a new harvest. Ideally, they would have started in November of last year, and regrettably, because of the dioxin levels of the water, they were unable to do so. So not only had they the issue of recovering from a failed harvest of the bad weather of the winter of 2013-2014, they now are unable to harvest at optimum time for the 2014 winter and 2015 markets. Just to give a scale of the problem, the harbours that are directly affected are chiefly Kenmare Bay, Bantry Bay, and areas around Dunmanus. They would produce annually in the region of almost 7,700 tonnes of mussel, chiefly for export. That would generate an annual turnover in a very, very small coastal area of somewhere in the region of 7 million, depending on the market conditions. The vast majority of the producers of the mussel in the mussel industry are ordinary people. They're like no different to onshore farmers on the west of Ireland. They are family-based, and they are not in a position, Cathaoirleach, to take the kind of events that they have taken, and they've taken them now in 2 and 3 consecutive years. So what I'm asking the Minister is to look at the possibility through the European Fisheries Fund under the current Common Fisheries Policy to instruct BIM to put in place a compensation package that would enable some of those that are hardest hit to get back on their feet and once again produce mussels. I would ask, maybe the Minister might clarify if she could, also whether it would be the Fisheries Fund or the European Maritime Fisheries Fund under the current Common Fisheries Policy recently adopted, and if she would ask the BIM to examine the possibility of accessing those compensation schemes.
Minister Phelan.
Thank you very much, Cathaoirleach, and I'm taking this topical issue on behalf of Minister Coveney, so I would like to thank the Deputy for raising this very important issue. Scientists from the Marine Institute carry out weekly testing of shellfish under the National Shellfish Biotoxin Monitoring Programme on behalf of the Sea Fisheries Protection Authority and Food Safety Authority of Ireland. These test checks for the presence and levels of naturally occurring biotoxins produced by phytoplankton to ensure compliance with strict food safety regulations to protect the consumer and the good reputation of Irish seafood industry. There are a variety of these natural biotoxins which build up periodically in particular bays, which require these bays to be closed until the biotoxins level subside and the shellfish are cleared of the biotoxins. The biotoxins do not harm the shellfish, and the shellfish can be sold for human consumption once the biotoxin levels have abated. The levels of biotoxins in shellfish in a number of bays in the southwest include Castlemaine, Bantry and Kenmare, exceeded the regulatory limits for the past number of months. This resulted in temporary suspension of shellfish harvesting in these areas until such time as the biotoxin levels returned to normal, naturally occurring background levels. Such harvesting suspensions are not unusual, and all seafood enterprises will be aware that this is a known and recurring business risk in that sector. While a number of bays in the southwest have experienced temporary suspensions of harvesting over the winter, Minister Coveney is informed by the Sea Fisheries Protection Authority that the toxicity events in the southwest are abating. Most of the production areas in the southwest have already reopened for harvesting, and lifting of suspensions in the remaining two areas appears to be imminent. It is difficult to gauge precisely at this time the likely long-term impact on business affected and their capacity to recover. This will no doubt depend on a number of factors, including their ability to harvest and sell stock in the water after the bays have opened. The impact will therefore differ from farm to farm and will also be impacted by the specifics of individual businesses, including the extent of their borrowings and other creditors and their cash flow reserves. However, the longer-term impact will undoubtedly depend on the extent to which their harvest is salvageable and can be brought to market. It may depend on whether the impact of the suspension is a deferred or delayed sales opportunity or an irretrievable stock loss. Some of the businesses concerned are likely to have sites in more than one location and may be better able to withstand this business setback. Yesterday, my department had a lengthy meeting with the mussel farmers in the southwest and their representative in IFA Aquaculture. This meeting shared up-to-date information on the situation bay by bay and discussed harvesting scenarios that have been occurring and will be occurring over the coming weeks. What was clear was that the overall situation on impact of the closures won't be clear until the farmers have exhausted their possibilities to harvest the remaining stock in the water. Minister Coveney received a request from the aquaculture industry representatives, which was repeated at yesterday's meeting with mussel farmers, for a package of compensation for mussel farming enterprises, including those referred to by the Deputy. That request sought compensation from either the European Fisheries Fund or the new European Maritime and Fisheries Fund. Similarly, the Deputy is requesting the creation of a compensation fund for these mussel farming enterprises through the EFF. Ireland's present seafood development programme, co-funded by the EU under the EFF, has been providing financial support to the seafood sector across a broad range of investments since it was adopted by the EU Commission in 2008. The programme supported the 2008 decommissioning scheme and since then has funded investments in our aquaculture sector, our seafood processing sector, fishing fleet, marketing and promotion of our seafood domestically and internationally. The programme comes to an end in December this year and will be succeeded by a new programme under the EMFF.
Minister, we've run over time on your contribution, so we'll have the rest of your statement read into the record as well. I call on
Thank you, Chairman.
Deputy Harrington.
Yeah, thank you very much, Cathaoirleach. To thank the Minister for her reply, and it's a comprehensive reply, and I welcome very much that the meeting that took place with the IFA aquaculture sector and area and some of the key stakeholders in this. And I want to acknowledge also the success the Minister and his department has had in achieving a 100% increase in the new fisheries fund in this common fisheries policy over the last common fisheries policy. But I would like to say again, and I note in the Minister's reply, or that I read of it, that the door has not closed on the possibility of some assistance for those operators that have found themselves, in some cases, under the threat, and a real threat of actually going out of business. They just simply can't take the perfect storm, again, that I mentioned, of the severe bad weather recently and the high toxicity levels that they're now encountering. And I do agree that a certain amount, a limited amount of harvesting has only just begun to take place in the last week. And I do also agree that it is entirely reasonable to assess how those will come to market and the likely eventual loss. And there will be an eventual loss to some of the operators. The pity here is that the larger operators will probably be in a better position to take that inevitable loss, I expect, but some of the smaller ones won't. And it's under that, in that context, that I would again look at a favourable response from the department to engage with Bord Iascaigh Mhara to at least look at a limited compensation package, identifying those that were hit hardest, and this is just to allow them to get back on their feet again. I note what the Minister said in her report about how the fisheries funds, past and present, are there to support new and existing industries. I think it would be a very poor judgment if, in looking at new industries and new opportunities in the sea fisheries sector, we allowed existing smaller operators to go out of business because, and it's through no fault of ours, it's through no fault of the departments, the ministers or the operators. They've just been hit with this natural tsunami of events, and I thank the Minister for at least not closing the door on that compensation issue.
Now, Minister.
Thank you very much, Cearla. And again, it's to thank the Deputy for raising this very important issue. And I understand that locally this will be a huge issue for him to be dealing with. And I will undertake to talk to Minister Coveney and ask Minister Coveney would he refer to you directly on what plans he has for that compensation scheme. As you said yourself, he hasn't closed the door, so I'd encourage you to pursue that.
Thank you, Minister. That concludes topic